Opo, sir, hindi.
Okay. Si Sarangaya. Tsaka si Miss Tabu, sorry. Okay, pero most of you have gone to senior high school and you have your own researches. Yes or no? Tama po ba? Guys, good morning.
Yes po.
Okay. So what are the types of researches na ginawa nyo nung senior high school yo? Can I know, Mr. Diano? Is it a 5-chapter type of research yung ginawa nyo? Or is it a 3-chapter type journal type research?
Parang ano po, sir, para pong 5 type po.
5-chapter. So you have can you identify what are the chapters that you have used on your senior high school? So you have your number 1, chapter 1 is what? Chapter 1 is the introduction part, I think. The second one is?
Ayan po, sir, parang yung mga andyan po.
Hindi nga.
Yung mga
Yung
intro
sa
po.
experience mo, oo, sa experience mo, ano-ano yung parts na ginamit nyo nung nagre-research kayo? I think you have your introduction. Then the next one is yung ginamit nyo, ikaw as Miss
Para pong nakalimutan ko na. Tagal po kasi. Pero
Okay,
ganito po,
so
parang ganito po sa may may SOTP po, parang ganyan po.
SOTP? What do you mean by SOTP?
And po, statement of the problem po.
So that is normally it is for introduction type part nung Okay, other than that, when we talk about 5 chapters, it means to say these are the yung parang hati-hati nung inyong thesis normally. Who could tell me kung ano yung klaseng ng thesis na ginawa nila nung college ay nung senior high school?
Sir, kami po capstone. Tapos may 5 chapters din.
Ayan, capstone. So normally, what are the 5 chapters that you use?
Sir, yung chapter 1 po namin about introduction. Tapos
Yes.
yung chapter 2, yung RRL.
Yes, review of related
Yung
literature.
chapter 3, about methodologies, yung mga
Yes.
methods. Tapos yung
Then?
4 po namin, presentation of research. Tapos yung last part po, yung summary na lang po.
Okay, so that's the thing. Okay, so that's the 5 chapters na sinasabi namin na ginagamit ng normal na research. We have the introduction, which comprise of the statement of the problems, the limitations, and then the different parts nito. Then you have your related literature. Before we are using 2 types of related literature, we have the local related literature and the anong tawag dito? International related literature. But nowadays, we are not using a local at saka international type of related literature. Meaning to say, yung local, ano ba yung sinasabi ng research dito sa Pilipinas? And then, international means yung ano ba yung mga researches or mga journal or mga papers na tumutukoy dun saan natin sa labas ng bansa. But nowadays, we are using now more on more on a sequential type of related literature. Hindi na natin sinasabi kung ito ay galing sa Pilipinas or ito ay galing sa ibang bansa. So normally when we talk about related literature, we talk about what are the things or what are the researches tells about your problem or your topics. So yun yung ginagawa natin. And then we have here the methodology. The methodology normally talks about what type of research you're going to use. For example, you have a quantitative research or the qualitative research or whatever you are going to use for a particular type of researches. If it is historical type, which is a qualitative type of research, and descriptive type research for a quantitative type. So yun yung mga natin. So yun yung pinag-uusapan when it comes to methodology. Other than that, how are you going to test your hypothesis or your statement? So dun mo papasok kung gagamit ka ba ng anong tools in order for you to prove your are we going to use a survey questionnaire? Are you going to do an interview? All of it are included to your methodology. While the other one, we have the discussion, talks about what happened to your research. Normally, you have an objective on your research, and that objective will be answered on your discussion. Ano yung nakuhang detalye or data dun sa research natin. And then afterwards, we summarize it, we do a recommendation, and we also do a conclusion of your research. Ano ba yung napatunayan ng research na to? And that is a five-chapter type of research na sinasabi. This is a complete type of research. But nowadays, we have it what we call a journal type of research, wherein you only have 3 parts. The first part is the introduction, the second part will be the methodology, and the third part will be your discussion, summary, and conclusion and recommendation. So these are the things that we are going to talk about. Because in engineering, normally nowadays, most of the universities and colleges, they were usually using na journal type of research. It is a limited number of pages for a research, pero andun na lahat yung laman. So normally kasi pag yung 5-chapter research, you go on and you go on and go on and go on writing so much on your research, and you get a lots of things in order for you to parang i-include dun sa research. But here, what is important is kung ano lang yung mga core na kailangan nating ilagay dun sa researches natin. So this is where I'm going to start, we're going to talk about chapter 1. Okay? So here, on chapter 1, one of the thesis act as a panel, it begins with a broad subject related to a title of the thesis, then narrows down to the variables and the question problems which are going to be solved in the research. And generally, in introduction, you need to explain what the reader is going to read about. So, ayan daw. So, when we talk about chapter 1, para daw siyang isang inverted triangle. When we talk about chapter 1, this is an inverted triangle wherein you have your topic or title. So, it is yung pinaka nasa ibabaw. It is the broader. Ano bang topic mo? For example, sinabi mo you're going to connect some... what do you call this one? You're going to connect a camera in order for you to check the security of a certain area. So security is a very broad subject. When we talk about security, we talk about yung technological security yung ginagamit natin ngayon. We talk about IoT, and this is a very broad subject. So pag sinabi mong ang ano mo is title is security, technological security ang inaano natin. So it is a broad subject. And then afterwards, what are the things that you're going to talk about on your So liliit yon. So doon papasok yung mga problems that you have encountered. And then afterwards, what are the objectives that you're going to want to do in order for you to prove your project is working. So iikli yon. Hanggang sa lumiit ng lumiit at masabi mo in detail kung ano lang yung scope nung ating research. So you limit your research on a certain area lang para hindi ganun kalaki, hindi ganun ka kasi pag sumobrang laki yung isang yung isang topic or yung isang title, normally mahirap itong matapos. Kaya ang ginagawa natin, we limit the subjects and we do the inverted triangle nga, yung broad sense of your topics to yung sa specified objectives that we have. So we have different parts of chapter 1. We have number 1, we have the introduction. Number 2, we have the statement of the problems. Number 3, we have the significance of the study. Number 4, we have the objective of the study. 5, we have the research questions. 6, we have the research hypothesis. 7 is the definition of the keywords, and 8 is the limitation and delimitations of your study. So normally, sabi nga ni nung nag-usap tayo noon or nagpaliwanag si Ma'am Mayet or si Dr. Agustin nung tayo, sinabi niya na depende daw yung format sa institution kung ano yung ginagamit. So normally, this is what we are using here in the College of Engineering. You have your introduction, you have the statement of the problem, the significance of the study, objective of the study, research question, research hypothesis, definition of keywords, limitation, and the limitations of your study. So let's talk about the introduction. In this section, introduce the subject you have studied. Start with a broad topic and limit it to the title of the thesis. By doing so, you establish your research territory. Then, provide some quotes or praises other researchers that emphasis on the importance of the title. Show that according to other researchers, the papers that there was a gap and you tried to fill the gap. So ano daw ibig sabihin nun? So ang ibig sabihin nun, yung dating RRL nyo or Review of Related Literature nyo dun sa the one that you use on your thesis on senior high school, dito na pumapasok dun sa introduction pa lang. So dito pa lang, ini-introduce nyo na kung ano yung inyong topic. Para saan yung topic mo? Ano yung mga studying meron na? At ano yung mga gaps na meron dun sa mga previous study? So kung mapapansin nyo, naalala nyo, ano daw ba ibig sabihin ng gaps? Anyone? Ano daw ibig sabihin ng gaps when we talk about research? Mr. Sarangaya, ano daw ibig sabihin ng gaps?
No, sir. No.
Ha?
Sir, yung pong question or problem po na hindi po nasasagot.
Is that the question or problem are the statement or the problem statement ng anong tawag natin dito? Ng ating research. Pero when we talk about gaps, what does it mean? Anyone from the group?
Sir, topic po na missing.
Topic missing. What do you mean by topic missing?
Yung
For
pong,
example,
example po, yung pong mga parang hindi po nakagit ng, hindi po nasagot yung question, mga part na di nasagot ng question.
mga part na hindi nasagot ng question, that's a good pero hindi pa yun yung pinaka point. Sige, that's good. But that's good. Normally, gaps are some of the questions that are not yet answered by the previous researches. Tama po yun. But other than that, there are also some gaps that are, anyone from the group? Can we talk on...
Sir, parang mga missing information po.
Missing information? Am I right? Tama po ba yung sabi?
Insufficient information po. Parang.
Okay. So that's the okay. So also, other than the some of the questions that are not answered by the previous researches, also we have some information that are lacking. So pwede yun. Pero sa atin, there are some also, the gaps are for engineering is that there are also methodology that are not yet proved to the previous researches, or there are also other ways around that you could use in order for you to prove that the research is okay or have the same output. So yun yung yun yung tinatawag nating gaps. So normally pwedeng yung sa atin, yung methodology ba ni ganito, pag binago ko ba yung methodology niya, same pa rin ba yung lalabas nung aking what do you call this one, yung aking gagawing system or gagawing prototype. Ganun yun. So, yun yung mga inaano natin by gaps. So, also, sabi nyo nga, yung mga hindi pa na-answered na question or hindi na-address na mga functionality ng system. So, tama po yun. So, that's the gap. Okay. So, I think I ask you to create a related literature of some topics such as the AI or artificial intelligence, also with the IoT. And the other one is, ano yung isa kong binigay na topic?
Robot po.
Robots. Okay. So, can anyone tell me ano yung mga nakita nilang gaps dun sa mga nabasa nilang researches? Meron ba silang nakitang gaps dun sa mga nabasa nilang researches? Meron po ba? When you do the related literature that you have? Have you done that? Have you checked the gaps of your system, of the different topics that I gave you? Meron bang nag-ano nun? Tumingin? Ha, meron po bang taong tumingin? Ba't nawala yung ano ko? Inaano ko, pinipresent ko. Okay, meron po bang nag-try na tumingin ng mga gaps dun sa kanilang researches? So you just get the research and then you pause it and give it to me. Tama po ba ako sa ini-expect ano ko? Sa check kong mga papel? You just get the research and then paste it, and then afterwards, that's it. That's your related literature. Tama po ba? Guys. Ayaw naman nila akong sagutin. Mr. Simbulan, anong ginawa mo? On your related literature. Have you read your related literature and then tell me what are the existing and then what's the gaps of the present, what is present on the topic that you have? Mr. Simbulan. How about you, Mr. Feliciano? What did you do?
Sir, nung binasa ko po parang kompleto naman po kasi doon lang din po halos umiikot sa IoT yung mga nabasa ko po na research.
Pero ang
po.
tinatanong ko, what did you do?
Ay,
Have
ano
you
po, ganito
summarized
po.
Have you summarized it, or you just get the related literature and then just post it to your to your
Sinamarize, sir.
papers?
Sinamarize po.
Sure?
Tas
Are you sure? I've read it.
medyo, sir. Kasi pa parang yung, andun na po kasi sa abstract pa sa conclusion ko po na tignan din.
You don't normally do, anong tawag dito? When you do a certain review of related literature, you don't only read the conclusion and the abstract. Yes, the abstract gives you an idea of what happened to your research,
Research
but
po.
it does not give you the entire idea. Normally, what you do is you read almost the whole content, specifically the discussion that the author gave.
Opo.
Oo, yung discussion. Because if you don't read the discussion, how can you say that you have read the whole research itself? The discussion gives all the details of what happened to the research. Tama po ba?
Yes, sir.
Mm-mm.
Pag hindi po yung problem and solution po.
Yeah, but you told me that you just read the conclusion and then the abstract. You cannot get everything on the conclusion and the abstract. You read the introduction so that you could get the objectives of the research, and then afterwards check the methodology that they've used, and then afterwards you check all the discussion, and then afterwards write down all the gaps that you have read on the previous work that they have, and then that's how you do your sampling of related literature. But I've seen that most of you just got
Introduction po yung...
just got whatever is in the introduction, or just got whatever they get from the paper, and then they just copy it. Yeah, it doesn't have the sequential part of your introduction, wherein you introduce your topic. What are the things that is said on the topic? What are the problems that you could check on and then the gaps that you could check on. So this is how the related literature works. Kaya ako kayo pinag-check na ng related literature so that I could assess how you're going to what do you call this one? How are you going to create your own introduction? But I've read some of the papers, it just copy paste and then copy paste, So from today, make sure that you have given your you have read the whole researches na binabasa nyo. Hindi lang po yung abstract and the conclusion. You read all the details, and then afterwards you jot down what are the things na ano. So normally we have your what we called a summary of your related literature, where here you have your topic, you have your methods, you have you have the topic, you have the objectives, then the discussion, the methodology, and then the gaps that you have read. So yun yung mga aanuhin nyo. Yun yung dapat na i-check nyo. Ang tawag natin doon ay RLL matrix or Review of Related Literature matrix, wherein inilalagay nyo lahat para as of ito po yung nakita naming gaps doon sa topic na meron kami. Are we good? Tama po ba yon? And then also guys, when you do a research, I've seen most of your research that you have get from the internet or wherever you get it from, most of them are from 2010, 2015. So pag gumagawa po ng researches, the list na dapat is at least 5 years. 5 years, at least 5 years ago lang. Pag masyado nang mahaba or malayo na yung medyo malaki na yung gap ng technology 5 years ago kesa ngayon. Lalo na siguro pag 10 years ago, napakalaki na ng difference ng technology 10 years ago and then this. Pero if you're going to use, for example, you're going to use theory, you're going to use hypothesis coming from different okay lang siya na medyo matagal. Kasi yung theory naman talaga, halimbawa, pinoprove yung theory nung theory pa ni Albert Einstein, yung theory of relativity. So, pwede po siya na medyo matagal. Pero pag po ang natin is we are basing our researches on the technology, at least we have at least 5 years ago lang yung mga researches na ginagawa nyo. Okay? Or binabasa nyo. Are we good? Okay ba tayo doon?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, so that's the thing paggagawa ng So next yung gagawin kasi is you're going to give me a topic and then you're going to summarize or do a related literature matrix for that one. Okay? So anyway, let's move on. So okay. So, sorry, hindi ko pala naipasok. Ba't ayaw? Ayun. Okay, so statement of the problem. So statement of the problem, or SOP, has 5 smaller parts which are, daw yung mga nandun. So statement of the problems, you have here you have the topic, the gaps, the evidence, the deficiencies, and the OGENs. So normally, when we talk about the topic, in the topic, this paragraph, you need to state the problem from theoretical and practical point of view. When we talk about theoretical point of view, ano ba yung nasusulat or mga connected to your topic? Theoretical point of view. Kung ito ay tungkol sa IoT, if it is about artificial intelligence, how does the artificial intelligence work? So you need to give us the theory that you use in order for you to prove your to expand your research. And then, sabi ko nga yung gaps natin, this states that specific problem was not solved in the previous researches. Then, the evidence, write 1 or 2 paragraphs or some part of the other papers that the research indicates that the problem exists. So, you just write down daw kung ano yung mga sinabi ng ibang mga researches before. So dito kayo papasok, titingin yun sa conclusion, ano yung mga na-conclude nila dun sa mga discussion that they have. So normally, normally sa recommendation, makikita nyo yung mga gaps makikita nyo yung gaps nila sa recommendation, yung conclusion, ano yung napatunayan nila dun dun sa anong tawag dito, dun sa ating ginawang research. Then the discussion kung paano nila pre-noob kasi yung research nila ay gumagana or yung research nila ay paano nila na-accomplish yung objective na meron sila. So yun yung ano natin. Okay? And then we have your deficiencies, demonstrate that how you solve the problem and how the gap was filled. So syempre yan yun. And then the audience whom your study is precious to and where it will be useful. So audience, sino-sino ba yung audience nyo? You could have an audience of the engineers. You could have if your topic is all about farming or agricultural technology, so your audience will be farmers. If it is for the government, your audience will be LGUs or local government units or the national government unit or that we have. So yun yung mga ano natin. Okay. As you can see, SOP will be 5 to 6 paragraph and each paragraph has a clear aim. Unlike the introduction section, you do not need to provide resources for every single statement in the SOP except for evidence section. Actually, sa introduction at saka dito sa statement of the problem, you need to give us what are the other researches tells us about your topic. Dito nyo ipapasok yung mga about dun sa mga na-review nyong related literature. So dito papasok yon sa statement of the problem and your introductions. At pag nagagawa po tayo dun sa yung kukuha ka ng statement from other resources, hindi po tayo copy-paste. Normally, we do paraphrasing. Paraphrasing meaning to say, papalitan mo yung mga wordings, pero yun pa rin dapat yung meaning. Hindi mo siya ika-copy-paste. Even though nalalagyan mo siya, halimbawa, nung nilalagay ngayon, yung open and close parenthesis, the name of the researcher. Normally, we do not just copy-paste it. We have to rephrase or paraphrase the whole sentence or the whole paragraph that you want to affix on your researches. Okay? So, meron tayong note dito. Remember that the introduction, you talk about the gaps too. There is a difference between the two gaps in SOP and the introduction. The gap in the introduction is a broader gap, while in the SOP, you need to clarify it in details. So, yung SOP or dun sa statement of the problem, mas specified yung gaps na hinihingi mo. For example, we are talking about the difference on the opinion of a male and a female about homosexuality, for example. So you need to detail the gaps, specific gaps na you want to solve. Ano ba natin? Pinapatunayan. Yung opinion ba natin ng lalaki at babae na ganitong edad? So specified na. So you're going to give a specified gaps from statement of the problem, from the statement of the problem, kesa dun sa ginamit mo sa introduction. Okay, so we have here the objective and the purpose. So, sa atin normally we use objective. We use the objective, not the purpose, ha? Okay, so pero sa ibang study we call it the purpose of the study, but sa atin objective of the study. So purpose tries to gauge at the reason behind something that is being done. Purpose defined why the person is doing something he is doing. What is it his reasoning behind doing a particular things and what he plans to achieve from it. The objective is actually a part of a goal. The term objective refers to the set tasks or goals that a person wishes to accomplish. Objectives are more concrete and are clearly defined by certain steps that will eventually allow the person to fulfill the particular goal. So, yun yung natin. So, pag purpose yung hinihingi mo, ang ginagawa doon is what is the reason behind your study. Pero pag sinabi nating objective, what is the goal of your study? So that's the difference between a purpose and the objective. In a purpose, you just talk about the reasons on why you are doing this study, but in the objective, you set the goals of what you're going to achieve for your study. Next, we have here the research questions. After a brief introduction, write down some questions which aim to answer during your research. In fact, the research questions are same as the purpose of the study in the form of a question. So sabi nila dito, yung question daw is parang purpose of the study. Pero sabi ni Mamayet, there is a big difference between research question and research objective. Sino nakakatanda nung pagkakasabi ni Mamayet before? Anyone from the group? Anyone from the group? What's the difference between the two? O walang nakinig kay Mamayet that time? Anyone? May kausap po ba ako? Hello? Sino yung sumasagot? Hindi ko nakikita, sorry. Okay, Mr. Florentino, what's the difference between the yung pagkakasabi ni Ma'am ni Ma'am Mayet nung nag-discuss siya? What's the difference between objective and question? Nang? Hindi ko na-gets. Ulitin. Paulit nga po. Sorry. Ala, di pareho lang na statement form. The statement of the problem stated in the...
Sir, De Luna po.
De Luna, yes, Mr. De Luna.
Sir, bali po sa pagkakaintindi ko na, sir, yung research problem po, presenting the existing issue and...
So, ang lakas ng hangin.
Hello, sir. Ayan po.
Ayan, ang lakas ng hangin.
Sorry po. Sir, yung pagkakaintindi ko po, yung research problem po, presenting the existing issue and difficulty. Tapos po
Yes.
yung research objective po, enumerates what research will do to address a specific problem po.
So, anong ibig sabihin nun? Paano mo masasabi? For example, can you give me a sample? Tama yun. So, when we talk about a statement of the problem, we enumerate the specific problems such as, for example, if you're going to Wesleyan University to enroll, what are the problems that you encountered? Number 1, ang tagal ni Sir Harry, ganon. Number 2, ang haba ng pila. Number 3, that's the problem, right? So these are statement of the problems, or these are the specific problems that we're going to answer. Tama po ba? Tama
Yes,
po ba?
Yes po, sir.
Okay. So when we talk about this, the goal or the objectives, ano naman daw yung objectives? If that will be your problem, what is the objective that you want to do? So when we talk about objectives, we talk about we enumerate what are the research work accomplished. So dun sa natin, anong daw yung mga i-accomplish mo? So for example, if you want to eradicate the problem of falling line dito sa natin, so pwede kang mag-propose ng system na pwede nang yung online na lang na system na mag-i-enroll ka, then afterwards, the enrollment, doon ka na rin magbabayad ng GCash, then afterward, you could get your enrollment form na. Ganun kabilis. So that's the specific objective that you want to accomplish on your study. Tama po ba? So that's the difference between the two. So the problem is, what is the specific problems that you want to answer, and then your goal is what are the things that you would like to accomplish for after finishing your research. Are we good? Are we good, guys?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, so let's move on to the next part of your ano. So we have your hypothesis, but as of this moment, hindi tayo gumagamit ng hypothesis. Normally, hypothesis is used for tawag natin social researches. Paano ba 'yung social researches? Yun yung ginagawa ng mga ng mga education, yun yung ginagawa ng mga nasa College of Art and Sciences because they are social. Yung tinaano nila is yung mga ng tao. So, sinasabi nila doon if it is a null hypothesis, meaning to say, pag sinabi na natin null hypothesis, yung isang walang pagkakaiba. For example, they want to see if there is a difference between EQ ng lalaki at babae. So, sasabihin nila, null hypothesis, ibig sabihin, pag null hypothesis, parang sinasabi mo na walang pagkakaiba yung emotional quotient ng lalaki at babae. So, bandang dulo, sasabihin ba nila na tama ba yung hypothesis nila na walang pagkakaiba? So, yun yung hypothesis na sinasabi. Okay? So, in this section, answers the research question which are stated in the previous part. For example, if you want a question, is there any statistical significance relationship between the TCK and the ICs of Iranian EFL learners? IS of Iranian EFL learners. So ayun lang yung mga inaano nun. Pwede din po siya sa mga mathematical or relationship such as, for example, sa atin ginagamit ito pag halimbawa we want to check on kung may pagkakaiba ba yung may pagkakaiba ba yung unawa nung mga professional na titingin ng isang prototype or system dun sa isang sa mga normal na gagamit lang nung system or nung prototype. So yun yun. So is there a parang statistical significant relationship between the two? So pag wala, sinabi mo wala po, di null hypothesis mo, walang pagkakaiba. So that's the hypothesis. So other keywords that you want to keywords are variants of these variables of the thesis, defines them theoretically and operationally. In order to write a theoretical definition, you need to scan related papers and find the definition of the keywords as they were defined. Yung keywords, normally we do not use this for journal type. We just indicate some of the words dun mismo sa introductory part, pero hindi na natin sila inilalagay as talagang part of your thesis. So, hindi na tayo masyado dun sa keywords. Then, sa limitation and delimitation. So, pag sinabi nating limitation of your study, ano yung mga limitation? Ano yung hindi kayang gawin? Baka naman lahat na lang ililimit nyo. Hindi pwedeng ganon. So, syempre, halimbawa, a limitation for a certain system. The limitation of the study is that if the power supply, anong tawag dito? Yung nawala na yung power supply nung natin or walang current yung power supply, hindi nagagana yung system or yung prototype. So, yun yung limitation. Kasi wala kang backup na battery, for example, or you cannot put in a backup battery for that one. So, mawawala na yung hindi na magtutuloy yung system. So, yun yung ginagawa. So, that's more on the limitation process. So, and also, the limits natin, delimitation, sometimes, for example, you delimit, halimbawa, dun sa edad ng mga isa-survey, for example, babae from 8 to 40 years old lang. So, you are delimiting. Hindi mo na isasama yung below 8 at saka yung above 40 years old. So, yun yung delimitations. So, these are the things that you could find on first chapter, which is the introduction. So what we're going to do right now is that you're going to submit. So later on, I'm going to give you the exact na to. Magbibigay ako ng mga sample for objectives and everything. Okay? So is there any question dun sa ating topic for today? About the first part of your chapter 1?
Sir, yung po bang limitations, pwede rin siya yung research gap ng isang topic?
No. That's no. When we talk about limitation, anak, we talk about the kung ano yung hindi sakop nung study mo. Pero yung research gap, we talk about what are the things or problems that is not answered by other researches. Magkaiba yung limitation dun sa gaps. When we talk about gaps, ito yung problem or things na hindi nasolusyonan or hindi nasama doon sa ibang study. Yun yung gaps na sinasabi. But when we talk about limitations and delimitation, ito yung hindi sakop or hindi kayang sakupin nung study mo. Nakuha.
Yes po. Thank you po.
Okay. Any other questions? Meron pa po ba?
Hello sir, may tanong lang po.
Yes po. Sino po to?
Si Rimbert po, Pangilinan po.
Rimbert yan. Sige na, go.
Napapuzzle lang po kasi ako. If kung wala pong hypothesis po dun sa research paper po, example po nung sa atin, ano po yung ano po yung pinagbabasihan po nung para po dun sa statistical methods?
Discussion.
Yes po.
Yung discussion. Okay, so for example, you have your specific objective, right? Sample natin, gawa tayo ng specific objective. So for example, you're going to create a system that could help become Wisley an online enrollment, yung process for online enrollment, for example. So ano yung objective mo dito? So number 1, you describe your system. So yun yung ipapasok mo. Ano yung description? One objective of your is your description how you build your system. So ano yung database na ginamit mo, ano yung circuit na ginamit mo, materials na ginamit mo, you describe it, you discuss it, and how you anong tawag dito? Arrive on your final system. So that's one. You describe your system. Number 2, you check your system. Di ba we're going to test your system. So katulad nung kila Robert, they were checking yung moisture content kasi nagda-dry sila ng nagda-dry sila ng mga fruits, vegetable at saka mga animals. So ginagawa nila, they were checking yung moisture content ng mga product time after time. So halimbawa, you're going to dry a certain onion. Ilang oras ko ito madadry? So unang first hour ko, ganito yung temperature ko, ganito yung na-dry ko. Ito yung constant temperature ko ng oras na to sa umaga. Halimbawa, time 1, ang natin is 75 degrees, for example. Ang moisture content na natanggal is around 10% of the moisture content natanggal. Check mo talaga yung yun. So yun yung nagiging statistical basis natin dun sa natin sa discussion. Yung sa testing at saka dun sa how you describe on arriving on your prototype or the final prototype that you have. Are we good, Mr. Rimbert?
Yes sir, thank you po.
Oo. Yun yung, kasi kung normally, tapos pagkayari nun, di ba ipapatest natin? Pwede na rin yun, lalagyan na natin yun ng meron bang difference between yung nag-test na normal na tao at saka yung mga engineer? Is there a difference? So pwede mo pang ilagay yun sa specific objective mo. So meron bang difference yung nag-check na tiga Department of Agrarian Reform dun sa normal lang nagagamit na farmer? Is there a big difference dun sa opinion nila when it comes to the system capability? Ayan. So yun yung yun kay gagamit ng survey questionnaire. So doon natin ipapasok yun. Doon pumapasok yung mga ganong bagay, anak. So normally, hindi masyado tayong nag-aano ng hypothesis because sabi ko nga, yung mga hypothesis, they were all normally uses it in education and social sciences. Pero sa atin, normally, we apply yung testing, yung experimental testing and description of how you accomplish your prototype. Okay? Any other question pa? I hope na Rimbert, meron pa ba tanong doon? Nasagot ko ba yung question mo?
Yes, sir. Nasagot po. Ayun lang po yung tanong ko.
Okay.
Napuzzle lang ako, sir. Thank you po.
Oo. Kasi normally, mahirap yung sa atin. Hindi tayo katulad ng mga social sciences na kailangan lang natin i-measure kung natutunan ba nila or hindi nila natutunan. Parang ganun eh. Or madali ba sa kanila or hindi madali sa kanila. Maka-move on, whatever. Ganun yung mga social sciences at saka yun sa mga education at saka sa nursing. Pero sa nursing kasi or gumagamit din sila ng experimental type sa mga medical department. So yun din. Parang ganun din tayo. We experiment. Okay? Any other question? Wala na? Are we good? Okay. If we're good, so I hope